Hey, howdy, hi, campers. I am Mike, and this is another episode of Fantasy Football RPG. And you'll notice Evan looks a little different this evening. It's, very handsome man nonetheless. He has a sick looking magazine behind him. Football guy, SiriusXM host, one of the best in the biz. Bob, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Mike. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to join you for this affair, as I've strong-armed you into joining me for a number of mine. So a little reciprocity is fine here.
Yeah, I mean, every time you're like, hey, do you want to go on the radio? Absolutely, I want to go on the radio. It's super cool. I have people text me and they're like, dude, I heard you on SiriusXM. And I'm like, I didn't know you listened, but you should listen to more Bob. But
I agree.
Today, we're going to run through this. This is going to hurt some people's feelings. It makes people sad. Nobody wants to hear that guys are going to be bad. But let's just go through some of the highest risk players in fantasy football this year. I mean, you want to shoot for upside. I totally get it. I want to chase it too. But some of these guys, they're just walking landmines. Do you remember the old game Minesweeper?
I didn't play it because I don't play games, but I do remember it. I've seen many people do it.
Yeah, so you got to go through and kind of find how many bombs are in whatever place, and we're going to try to do that today. We're going to say there's one bomb in each round. We're pulling this from Footballguys ADP. If you guys haven't checked that out, head over to Footballguys, subscribe, do all the things over there, and we're just going to find one player around that they might not win you your league, but they could certainly lose you your league in the first round. I mean, this is the example of super high upside, but also super high downside. How do you feel about Christian McCaffrey this year?
I just did an FFPC draft. My bad. And I just did a video. My On the Hot Seat show this week was on this draft, which I thought was great. And I had the fifth pick overall, and my thought was maybe I take McCaffrey. Here's the reasoning behind it, right? He's back. He's at full speed. We know Kyle Shanahan has a problem. His problem is an inability to take Christian McCaffrey off the field when he's available. And the enabler that Christian McCaffrey is, he does not want to come off the field. So you get that elite volume. But you have to acknowledge that it's that you're taking a little bit of a risk at that point. I ended up getting Jahmyr Gibbs because people went different directions than I expected early. So, but I think McCaffrey, I'm kind of in on. I've moved him. I have him after Derrick Henry in my rankings, but I have moved him ahead of Ashton Genty at this point, just based on the receiving ability, the locked-in role, the injuries swirling around him. But again, must acknowledge he's an older player coming off a year of horrible injury. So everything's been good all of August. We're not hearing any of the, there's none of the mystery, none of the intrigue surrounding him. So I'm hoping it all holds up. Talked to Kyle Madsen from Niners Wire last night, and he says everything's been a go. That's everything I've heard from camp, from multiple beat writers, is that. And I acknowledge right now that everyone was saying the same things last year, but it was a different story, right, Mike? He was not on the field, and we weren't sure. And it wasn't until the Friday before their Monday game that we really knew he was even going to be listed as questionable. And then it all went downhill from there. So hopefully there will be none of that. But I'm in, and I understand if somebody is not.
I am willing to take that risk because I'd rather come in first or last than come in fifth place.
Nobody remembers second through up to last, right? Everyone remembers the winner and the loser. That's it. So take the big swing, kids.
Yeah. So let's move into the second round. I have a name that comes to mind. Are there any that really stick out to you there?
So Nakua has fallen into the second round, right? And probably for me, he's somebody I'm not getting a lot of because of my desire to either get Kyren Williams or even more so Davante Adams. And I guess, I still think that this team, because this offense, and Matt Stafford has supported, 2 top 24 wide receivers in 3 of his 4 years in Los Angeles. And it's a pass-heavy offense, and we know that Puka's role is locked in. But here's what I keep thinking. Davante Adams shows up in New York last year. Garrett Wilson, he finished as wide receiver 9, but he was wide receiver 22 during the 11-game stretch that Adams was on the roster. Adams was wide receiver 5 during that stretch. So, and like Matt Waldman, our colleague at Football Guys, wrote in his gut check, I think the week before last, is we may be valuing these guys wrong. It may be Adams that we should have ahead of Nakua as the more complete receiver. Whether you think that's true or not, Adams at the end of round 3 or early round 4 is the value for me. So it's not so much that I think Puka's a fail. It's that I think I want Adams at value, and there are other players in this same range that I feel more comfortable with than Puka at this point.
Yeah, I was really worried about Stafford when we started talking about what he was having to do to get back on the field. We're talking about an epidural, which I've only heard as it relates to other things in life. So when we're talking about the elite targeter that Adams is, the range that both of these guys are going in right now, I totally get betting on the later player to still produce. Right. How do you feel about Bucky Irving? So just real quick, I love Bucky. Big fan of his. But when we talk about guys that could definitely not pay off at their price, we have the Tristan Wirfs injury. They didn't put him on IR, but he's still dealing with some things. So you lose your best offensive lineman. Liam Cohen's gone. So we're expecting them to hire the perfect offensive coordinator for 3 years in a row. And now we have Bucky coming off his RB10 when maybe the new OC doesn't love Bucky as much. Maybe the tiny player gets hurt. Maybe the offensive line is worse. Maybe the offensive. There's a lot of ways that this cannot pay off. And I don't know.
I've been with you on this one up until like about the last week. I've started to shift. Like I'm not drafting him, but I'm more open to it at this cost, right? And my concern was it was the touches last year. We only had 254 touches. Is he going to get, what's the plan for the volume? I talked to Greg Allman of Fox Sports, and I asked him, is Irving going to get more touches this year? And Allman didn't hesitate. He said it'll be a bigger load. And here's the thing that we have to remember. Over the first half of the season, I want to say it was 30% of the snaps for the first half of the season. He ended up at over 70% of the snaps. If he plays the whole year closer to 70% of the snaps, then this is probably a more reasonable cost. And if you think that's going to happen, I think you feel better about investing in him. I do think it's going to be closer to the 70 than the 30, at least to start out. And he's got to hold up. Some of the things you said are true. I'm still drafting guys later than him. I think that I prefer a little bit more, but I do feel a little better about him than I did even a week ago. I was as firmly in your camp. Now I only have 1 foot in your tent, sir. I'm
not even saying it's like a full fade, but like, how much would it surprise you if Chuba Hubbard, Travion Henderson, Alvin Kamara, like 2 or 3 of those guys outscore him? And they're going
Walker.
They're going 3 rounds later. Like why invest that early?
That's it. That's exactly it.
Yeah, I'm a little worried there. Round 3. This is another one of those guys. I love shooting for the moon, but we need to acknowledge how much of a mine this is. Tyreek Hill. There's so many different ways it can go wrong. He can go traded somewhere else. The wrist injury can flare up. Speedy wide receivers don't age that well. How do you feel about Tyreek Hill this year?
I feel the same. I mean, I feel like if I want a Miami receiver this year, it's probably going to be Jalen Waddle at a much cheaper price. But this is one of the guys, the ultimate, like if he finishes wide receiver 1, 2, or 3, at any point you're like going to go, oh yeah, Tyreek Hill's back, right? Yeah. So he is kind of a total swing for the fence play, and it's not cost prohibitive to do it as wide receiver 13 right now, 3rd round, late 3rd round, maybe he falls into the 4th, I think the farther he falls, if people aren't sold on him in your league, it gets a little easier. But some of the players going around him make it really hard for me to buy into him. Like I could wait a little bit and get Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, who we mentioned is going after him. Like I like Garrett Wilson a little bit more. So, so I'd probably be okay with any of those players and let somebody else be the hero. Like sometimes that's just how you feel about a player.
Just step aside a little bit, let them relax. Moving on down to round 4. I mean, so we've already covered Christian McCaffrey, Bucky Irving, Puka Nacua, Tyreek Hill. Round 4, I mean, you're not going to specifically lose your draft in round 4, but you can definitely set yourself back. What are some of the names that you're looking at here?
I like everyone in round 4 except maybe one guy. maybe one guy. Maybe it's Breece Hall that I don't feel great about. Right? There's a lot of talk about the, Detroit style backfield we're going to see. A lot of talk about Braylon Allen in camp all summer. Braylon Allen is still pretty much a free square play in terms of a guy that's expected to have a role. Like if he has to David Montgomery, that was the thought, right? It's going to be a Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery split. And you can make that argument with Breece Hall, who 2 years ago had 90 targets or something ridiculous. I mean, he was a legit pass catcher, and then kind of Aaron Rodgers forgot about that, and maybe he slowed down a bit. And I don't know if I see Justin Fields dumping off a lot, I'm going to admit, right? Like he's going to take off and run. But you could see the comparison to Breece Hall playing the Jahmyr Gibbs role and David Montgomery role being held by Braylon Allen. Well, whether you think they're exactly those players or not, this is where I will remind you that Jahmyr Gibbs last year was running back 5 in the 14 games that David Montgomery was playing. David Montgomery was running back 9 in those 14 games. I mean, there's room for some value here on the second piece of this offense to me. So I'm dialing back on Breece Hall. I don't know that I'm buying into, there's a great site, JetsX, that does a lot of analytics surrounding the Jets. And they made a pretty strong argument for the notion that he was slowing down. Well, that could be a couple, like a multi-lane thing. Like sometimes it takes a player a full year. He claims he wasn't entirely healthy. If that's true, maybe he needed to get back to full health. Maybe his best days are ahead of him. Maybe his best days will come on another team at some point. But for this year, I'm just not sold. I took a share of him like this week in a draft. It was like the first time I've drafted him as like my running back 1 because I went wide receiver heavy early. And I feel really creepy about it.
Yeah, he's just kind of sitting there at the top of the ADP list, and he just keeps falling. You're like, we say ignore ADP, and then at the end of the day, you're like, okay, all right, I got to do this. I would just feel so silly if Justin Fields opens up rushing lanes for Breece Hall like Lamar Jackson did for Derrick Henry.
Possible.
Maybe he's super efficient. Maybe all of a sudden there's amazing opportunities there, but oh Lord, there's so many ways it can go wrong.
As long as Braylon Allen is going in, and he's rising, he's gone from like running back 54 to 45 in pretty short order. But if you believe what we're hearing and what we've seen in the past, he's going to outperform that price, that running back 45 price. That's double digit rounds. I'm probably going to have way more of him, or I already do have way more of him than I have a Hall.
Yeah. I want to bring up everybody's dynasty darling was going either 101 or 102 in drafts last year, Marvin Harrison Jr. So we're kind of baking in this breakout already. Like fantasy managers are getting smarter. They're expecting this year 2, year 3 jump. Nothing has changed in this formula for Marv. It's still the same quarterback, still the same head coach, still the same OC, still the same target competition. So we're just hoping that one of the most polished wide receivers comes into the league and then takes this year 2 jump. If they continue to use him in the role they're using him in, it's going to be frustrating. He's a fantastic player, but the scheme hasn't changed. So
I do think, like, I'm kind of with you. I still think Trey McBride's going to be the leading target in this offense. It just seems but for me, it's more about some of the players that are still there. That Devontae Adams going 1 after him, Mike Evans going 1 before him. Like if Devontae Adams is gone, I will take Mike Evans all day. Some of the other players, like I like Courtland Sutton a lot. I expect him to outperform his ADP, just like he did last year when he was wide receiver 11 or 12 or something ridiculous by the end of the season. I have high hopes for Bo Nix, who I'm drafting a lot of. If I'm trying to like preset for some little stacking, I'm probably going to grab Sutton in that range because I know I'm going to try and get Nix later and probably not Kyler Murray. So yeah, I could make. There is a lengthy list of reasons I don't have a lot of Marvin Harrison Jr., but I do like the reports from camp right now. But you're 100% right. We're betting on the second-year league.
Yeah. I want to believe the camp, but I just can't right now. In round 5, there's a couple of landmines that are sticking out to me. Are there any that really speak to you? Do you want to just say this player, don't draft him? It's going to end your season.
Well, probably so. I'll just say, looking as we look at like James Conner, or am I still in round 4? Let me get into round 5. I'm gonna say like RJ Harvey at 62.
I had him written down at first.
Seems like the guy that I'm probably gonna have the least of, especially with the aforementioned David Montgomery sitting a couple picks after him. Our colleague at Football Guys, Cecil Lammy, came out right out of the chute and said, when they signed J.K. Dobbins, this is a 1A, 1B situation. I'm just going to not give anything away, but Cecil's very well connected in Denver. He talks to people who know things. And so the thought that they had an entire OTA season and then a full mini camp to look at and assess RJ Harvey, and then they signed Dobbins. I mean, whether you think Harvey's going to eventually assume the mantle and be the lead piece of this backfield, J.K. Dobbins is there. And he's there for a reason. So I'm still a little bit leery of him. And I'll go ahead and say, Travis Hunter, I think, people have kind of come to grips with the fact that that's probably not a good idea to draft him as your running back, wide receiver 3, maybe 4 is okay if you're you're playing best ball, or if you're in an IDP league and you can park him at cornerback and accrue the offensive points as well, I'll take him in the first round. But otherwise, I'm probably not excited about him.
Travis Hunter scares me because I want to be part of this and I really just enjoy the talent that he is. But I mean, if he plays a reduced snap share, if he's only playing offense and he has to compete with Brian Thomas Jr. and all of the things Liam Cohen does with his running backs in the pass game, like it's gonna be tough for him to pay off. I have an old reliable that we like to bust out and we say this guy's gonna pay off at ADP every single year, and this is the year. I don't think he does. David Montgomery. He's a warm, fuzzy blanket for fantasy managers.
I'm not here for that slander.
I love the player, but hear me out. What if the Lions can't sustain 2 top-tier fantasy running backs for the first time in a couple of years? What if losing their offensive coordinator is a big deal? What if the interior offensive line, their all-pro center retiring, their left guard being banged up? Now Dan Campbell is going to have to figure out what that offense is going to look like. What if it's just a different split and Gibbs gets a little bit more run? Or, I mean, even Montgomery could get more run and then Gibbs is losing work. There's a world where they just don't have 2 anymore.
I think at the cost, and by the way, we should acknowledge right here that I'm lousy at math and I jumped around up to round 6 quietly while no one was looking. But I could see that. Well, obviously the world sees that, or his ADP would be closer to where he produced last year, right? So there are concerns. A lot of talk about Gibbs playing more in a receiver, more 2-back sets with Gibbs, splitting out, etc. So, I mean, the dynamic could shift a little bit. I think at this price, it's a reasonable gamble, although there are still some backs maybe going after him who I'm a little more comfortable with the workload. The production has been phenomenal over the course of his time. The last 2 years with Gibbs, it's been fine. So I'm probably not dialed back on him. In fact, I'm probably full throttle on the Montgomery at cost.
It'll be fun to watch how it shakes out. I just wanted to bring up what if there's a world where maybe the Lions aren't amazing and Jared Goff takes a little bit of a step back. The offense isn't the greatest show on turf, which sounds more like the Lions when I was growing up instead of the Lions now. Round 6, Deebo Samuel. Is there any reason that he should be being drafted here other than his name is Deebo Samuel?
Maybe I was out on Deebo Samuel in San Francisco last year and it worked out well. I was probably not expecting him to be as lousy as he was, right? Mm-hmm. So like a rebound season to me is not out of the question. Also, I'm not buying any of it. I'm just not. I think I bought his share this week and it was the first time I have, and it was really late in the draft. And I thought this is ridiculously late for him. So I went ahead and did it. Maybe people thinking, just in the wake of the McLaurin sighting that he slid down or whatever, just based on the helium from that, that move. But yes, I'm not having a lot of Deebo. Although I do think this is not an unreasonable price for him.
It's not unreasonable. And once you start talking about wide receiver 35, there's plenty of guys that it's fine. My concern with Deebo is that we're drafting the Commanders wide receiver 2 ahead of possible Patriots wide receiver 1. Ricky
That's
Pearsall.
The real problem. Stephon Diggs is almost an auto pick for me.
Right? Matthew Golden. There's so many names after him that I prefer. Correct. Why take Deebo where he might be wide receiver 31?
I like all those guys better, and we'll have more shares. Even the suddenly angry Jacoby Myers, who Matthew Berry pointed out this week has finished his wide receiver 30 or better every year that he's been a Raider. Yes. Even with at some points Devontae Adams, even with Brock Bowers, even with lousy quarterback play. Now his biggest obstacle is a run-heavy approach. I think he'll be okay. So there's a lot of guys in that range, and I'm with you on Golden. I think the Green Bay situation. It's been such a whack-a-mole. Maybe this is just wish casting a little bit, but at some point, a guy they invested first-round draft capital in for the first time since you were a small child at the position, that maybe he can do something. The reports from camp have been pretty glowing. The eyeball test, as I've watched a little bit of training camp work and exhibition action, has been good. So I think he's a great – I like him at this price. I think maybe there's a chance he could emerge as a thing.
For some reason, my internet cut out there. But yes, I agree all of the Jacoby Myers positives. And if you said anything bad about him, I would pretend it didn't happen.
I did not.
Fantastic. Moving into the next round, there's a glaring one to me. I think we're probably on the same page there. Is there a running back in round 7 that will just ruin everybody's day?
In round 7, is Tracy still in round 7? Yes.
It's Tracy and then 2 picks after Tracy.
And Joe Mixon. I mean, nobody should be taking Joe Mixon right now. Like, I get it if you like if you're at this point in your draft and you're thinking, let's see, Joe Mixon or Quinshon Judkins, or can I get a guy at this price that's going to give me, starting work at some point in the season? I think I'd rather take my chances on Judkins a little bit later. That's
interesting. I didn't know you were such a strong Judkins supporter at this point.
I'm not a strong supporter, but you're getting to a point in your draft where you're looking at some of the running backs that are available. And you're thinking this guy's always going to be a bit player, or he needs a bunch of injuries, or some bizarre circumstances. All Quinshon Judkins needs is to get back in the mix and have some practices. And he's back in the running for the lead role in this offense. They didn't burn that second round pick on him for no reason, right? In the draft. And once he gets past his problems, we might even be thinking about his problems in October or November, right? Joe Mixon, I don't have any idea when we'll not be thinking about his issues. This sounds very CMFC-ish, he's okay, he's getting better. Oh, wait, he's not better. Oh, wait, he's getting those injections in some foreign land or whatever he's doing, all kinds of mystery surrounding him. I would rather avoid that. I'd rather draft Nick Chubb in round 12 than Joe Mixon at all.
I support that. Is there another player? So I think we're moving down to round 8 now? My math is completely out the window. Well, who's the next player? Who's the next player you're worried about?
So we're down here with let's see. We'll start with 85. We're round 8, 85 through 96. I kind of like a lot of people in this round. Chris Godwin is kind of hard for me to understand when he's going to be ready. It sounds like it'll be soon enough that this does not scare me off. So I'm going to say Juwan Jennings, who I already have way too many shares of. It's getting a little concerning talking to people that follow the team closely. The language is starting to sound like this is a combination of the calf and the contract issue, and that it's possible he ends up opening the season on IR. So it may be that I don't like the way the circumstances are going right now. He hasn't been on the practice field since when? And the only thing Kyle Shanahan said publicly is the same things he said about Christian McCaffrey last year. We expect him to be ready week 1. But when you talk to people, Tim Kamakawi at San Francisco, a local guy in San Francisco, also Kyle Madsen, who I talked to, they both have been throwing out some signals that this is not going in a good direction. So I'm a little worried about him, but I also have enough sunk cost in him that I don't need to be adding anymore. And now that we come in, and we talk, I know we do this a lot, and it's not cool to people who are heading into their most important drafts, for me to sit here and talk about my portfolio of best ball investments. But it does have a factor. I try to flip the switch, but at some point even when you're going into your final draft leagues that are really important and all that goes by the wayside, somewhere in the back of your mind, you're saying, well, I got a bunch of Juwan Jennings somewhere. I don't need him anymore in any of my leagues that matter most. That's kind of where I'm at on him.
Yeah, I am in way too many best ball leagues, and then I acquired him pretty cheap in Dynasty. Now all of the news is scary. The Ricky Pearsall drumbeat is too much to ignore, and I don't know what to do with Juwan Jennings other than if you already have him, keep him. Ideally, with both Jennings and Godwin, your league has an IR spot. You can just kind of tuck him in there and just hang out a little bit. But I think that's probably as deep as we're talking about landmines. Are there any other players anywhere on the list you want to say do not draft?
I think, we're at the point now where you get into the Quinshon Judkins. Like I'm not drafting Zach Charbonnet is a running back 36. I'm not drafting him, but it's a reasonable price. And I'm not drafting him because I've told myself a super happy story that Kenneth Walker III is not only going to remain healthy, but everything everyone said about him, and by everyone, I mean Clint Kubiak, since the day he showed up in Seattle, making it clear that Kenneth Walker is his guy, that he's the ideal fit for this offense. He's the home run hitter that can just excel in that outside zone scheme. I believe all that. And 2 of 3 beat writers I've talked to, Brady Henderson, the latest, kind of came up with a little bit of they said some things about Kenneth Walker this week. Well, they did because they wanted to get him back on the practice field. And lo and behold, he got back on the practice field. I think he's in good graces. But like Greg Belt from the Tacoma News Tribune told me, like, as long as he's healthy, this is not a 1A, 1B situation. This is a feature back and a guy spelling him situation. So I'm not going to have a lot of Charbonnet. But even at that, like, it's round 10, 11, I'm going to be fine. Hit the double-digit downs. Quinshon Judkins going in that same range for the same reason. Just the contingent upside alone for these guys, I think it costs. And I think pretty much everyone after this is probably in that same boat and maybe even a better situation. So, yeah, I don't think there's anyone, once you get the double-digit rounds, I have a saying, Mike, everybody at the right price. Mm-hmm. Double-digit rounds are pretty much the right price for most everybody who's going there.
Yep. I think once you hit that range in your drafts, you're just shooting for upside. Find the story that makes sense, whether it's a backup running back taking the starting role or, maybe Daniel Jones is everything you need for the Colts wide receivers. There's a story you can tell yourself about basically anybody there. But I think we've covered all the landmines for the fantasy season. Bob, thank you so much for joining me. Do you want to tell people where they can find you, what you're working on? I mean, you are just working all of the time, so let's hear it.
Working on many things. Find me at Football Guys. My weekly fantasy notebook's up every week. That'll shift a little days in the regular season. Also do my in and out column, which is like my notebook on Thursday, the in and out on Saturday. My videos, I'll be doing a live stream every Saturday. It'll just be people coming in and asking me questions for an hour. It'll be in the middle of the day. My On the Hot Seat videos will continue on Tuesday. You can catch me every night on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio from 8 to 10 on the Football Diehards program. That'll also go to 7 days a week once the season starts. You'll catch me on NFL Radio, simulcast on the Fantasy Channel Saturday nights, like from 7 to 10. Then Sunday, I'll be on the pregame show from 11 to 1 with Jeff Mann. So a lot going on. And I apologize in advance for those who would like to miss me, but find it difficult to avoid me.
I don't think anybody wants to miss you, but if they want to get more of you, you can find you all of those places. But also, Bob, you're coming back here. So
I am.
Subscribe. You're definitely coming back in the season so that we can hang out, because I always feel like I get smarter when I talk to you, and I'd like to get smarter. But thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Football RPG Podcast. If you made it this far, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to check out written content, head over to lastwordonsports.com.
Don't let the goblins get you.